Yeah, but doesn't he have a point when he says, look, he doesn't know how going back to regionalism will work this time because, I mean, you have a lot of people who are clamoring for more states.
Yes, we see.
And then you're asking to go back to regionalism.
Well, precisely.
Isn't that the opposite? Because you're asking...
No, it's not the opposite. You've not followed what I said.
Okay.
We've not said that the state should be abolished. And the fact that even the creation of state did not follow any given template makes it very difficult for one to say that there won't be more states in the future. But what we are saying is that if you have, which we are proposing, if you have 6 regions will stay as a permanent feature in our structure. Within those regions, if those who feel that they have a right to self-determination to have a state, realizing that you need to generate most of the income to run your state from within your states, from the taxation you raise within your states. Because if you look at what we propose, we're even proposing that whatever is actually produced in a state, the state should keep 50% of it, 35% of it will go to running the regional government, 15% will be what the federal government will take on taxation. So we've actually thought this thing through, and we will commend others to actually at least look at it, read it,
okay.
Because I think that it will even be more useful for the North than the present system that we have. If you look at Niger State in terms of size, is 10 times the size of Netherlands. Netherlands, from agricultural production, Netherlands actually is able to generate $100 billion per annum. Niger State is 10 times that size. And Niger State has the potential of actually...
If I could jump in, pardon me for that. I mean, yeah, all of the suggestions notwithstanding, he also did say the legal way to channel all of this is through the National Assembly. Or you say you've thought this through. What ways did you suggest, or do you suggest that, yes, all of these are suggestions, this is the way we think that the country can look at them?
Well, if you look at those, I mean, we don't remember who's saying that we should actually present this thing to him. You can see that he's actually not even read the suggestion, and he's actually closed his mind to the concept of regions, and he feels that it's something that's backward. I mean, it isn't. It's the most. Even the constitution we are operating recognizes 6 zones. So why do we do things in zones? I mean, the fact that we are actually accepting that zones exist should not make it difficult for those zones to be transformed to regions. The fact that we need, even if we devolve powers to states, we need some structure that is able to manage social and economic and infrastructural needs, interstate needs, requires some structure to do that. If you don't have regions actually exercising those functions, then you're going back to...
So how do we discuss it?
It's now a live issue. We've thrown it to the rest of Nigeria to look at. And I think that
there's a process to throw it to the rest of Nigerians.
Well, there's a process that we think that at the moment might be a difficult process. Actually, ideally, when you want to actually effect a proper change, to have an autonomous constitution that derives the power from people, the best process is actually to have a constituent assembly or a constitutional conference that is just purposely elected to perform such functions. Because you see, whilst you're at the National Assembly, you're exercising legislative functions. Then
but they can alter the constitution.
Yes. I accept that for what it's worth at this point in time, the legitimate arm of government exercising legislative function. But I'm just saying that really it would have been faster if we were bold enough, even if the National Assembly is bold enough to actually put in place an act that creates a body that is able to just purposely sit down and actually write the constitution for us.
But what do you think about the 1999 constitution? Is it any different from the 1979 constitution? Because some quarters have said that it's actually a clone of the 1979 constitution, and the 1979 constitution itself is really no different from the 1973 constitution. So why can you not work with the 1999 constitution to achieve the aims that you want and go to the National Assembly?
Well, actually, if I were people of the National Assembly themselves, I mean, I will find it actually embarrassing that the constitution that they're operating is a military constitution. One would have thought that they will find some mileage in being proud to say that civilians themselves are able to actually bring about an autonomous constitution, a constitution that actually derives its power from the people, rather than saying that there's something sacrosanct about actually keeping a military constitution. At the moment, yes, I accept that constitutionally there's a process that can be followed constitutionally. But if you look at those who we say that we were presenting this completely abandoning presidential system, they stand to lose something from it. So maybe they won't be as bold as the Senegalese people who sat back and saw that the bicameral system was too expensive for them, that in order to actually achieve growth, they needed to reduce the cost of government, and they went back to parliamentary system, and that's
but they agreed on that.
Yes, they agreed on that.
But our problem is getting everybody to agree.
Yeah, but see, there are now tendencies that are pulling the country apart. Anywhere in the world where there are tendencies for self-determination, where there are tendencies for self-government, what you do is you devolve power to them, and you allow them to be responsible in exercising legislative and executive functions for the management of their part of the country. Everywhere
so you don't see this happening with the 8th Assembly?
They don't seem to understand what it is, what we require to actually devolve power in a manner that will be effective, in a manner that will enable us to unleash the very great potentials of this country, to be able to feed ourselves, to be able to develop solid minerals, to be able to actually become truly the largest economy in Africa. We have the potential, but the structure is defective. The system of government is defective. So really, these are the hindrances. These are the problems we have in not being able to achieve growth. And
if you say, I'm sorry to butt in, if you say that going to the National Assembly is likened to the lamb going to get hay from the lion, that means with all your meetings in Ibadan, it will really amount to nothing. You cannot really move forward. How do you intend, what's your next step of action?
Well, if we continue on this trajectory, I fear that the system may either implode or explode. I think it should be obvious to most people. And even those who may not have actually have thought that the presidential system was the parliamentary system is a good idea, even those who had previously not subscribed to the regional form of government, even in the north, are beginning to see that really that is the only trajectory that can keep Nigeria together as one entity, and at the same time enable us to unleash the economic potentials of the country. Because if you have a country where you have about, I think it's about 80% of our young people who are out of work, now you can't solve that problem through a unitary system. You can't solve that problem without completely transforming this economy. And you can't transform the economy by just saying that you are devolving power to the states, because there are still interstate economic and social services that need to be maintained. And it's better to devolve the process of the maintenance of those structures to the people around that regional area, rather than for someone in Abuja to be determining construction of express roads in a particular region, or for me in Lagos to be determining to happen to be on a Kwango, on a government Kwango, that's determining what is happening in Sokoto. I mean, look at our police. Our police too should be. It shouldn't be a central, controlled.
Okay.
It's wrong. It's ineffective.
A lot of reference to Abuja. That's where we'll be going very soon. But we have to thank you for coming out this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Chief Shukwu Oshenibara is the chairman. Yoruba Summit Program. Is also a legal practitioner.